Spreading the Floor, episode 59. I am joined by my co-hosts, Tyler and James. Obviously, we'll get into who you guys root for and why you guys are here in a second. I, of course, am your host, the Jewish Jawline, the soundboard god, Jacob Cooperman from the Jacob Cooperman Show, but also from Spreading the Floor. It's been about 4 months since the last episode of this podcast, but we're almost at 60. So I wanted to keep it going, man. Something inside of me was just like, I need to talk some basketball. It has been far too long since I talked basketball. So, gentlemen, I appreciate you being here. I really do. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure to truly be on this show.
So let's get into why you guys are here and also who you guys root for, who you guys teams are. Tyler, you said you were a San Antonio Spurs guy?
Yeah.
How is that? How is it tagging for the 7-foot Victor? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Victor
Wembanyama.
Wembanyama?
Victor Wembanyama.
Let's call him Victor.
Victor. That's what I've been saying in the group as Victor.
I mean, you might as well.
Yeah, but James, you're a Miami Heat guy, correct?
I'm a Miami Heat die-hard fan. That's my team. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm 23 now. 12 years ago, I saw this guy named LeBron James play basketball for Miami Heat, and I was a front runner, and I joined Miami Heat. But now I stuck with them, and I hate LeBron, so it comes full circle, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's more respectable than if you just followed LeBron to the Lakers and became, just ordered a Lakers jersey off Wish the next season. Yeah. Yeah. But, I wanted to bring you guys together some ball. We got to get into
Tyler, what made you?
Oh, go ahead.
Tyler, what made you a Spurs fan? I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Well, mainly because it would be Tony Parker, I would want to say. Like, Tim Duncan is one of my favorite basketball players, without question. But Tony Parker is probably one of the reasons why I started loving the Spurs culture. And mainly because, like, the kid came in a heavy star-studded Western Conference, and got guys like Steve Francis and Kobe and Steve Nash and like Sam Cassell, who was still pretty damn good, and Stephon Marbury. So he already was dealing with a stacked deck against him. But the fact that he became a multi-time All-Star, he's one of the only Euro players to ever win a Finals MVP. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's the first Euro star to ever win Finals MVP. And not to mention, I mean, he was always a highly offensive efficient player, especially in terms of the point guard division. And that's like before and even after Chris Paul. So he's probably one of my biggest inspirations as to why I became a Spurs fan.
I love that because Tony Parker, for me, watching Tony play, especially as a Heat fan, I was young and I was uneducated about basketball back then. I was like, I don't like this guy and I don't know why. I don't know why I dislike this guy. He plays so weird. He doesn't drop 30 a game. I just couldn't put my finger on it, but I just hated him so much. But
you know what? It's one of those 30s where you're like, I didn't realize he had 30.
It's a silent 30, yeah.
You're like, what the hell did that come from?
You check the stat sheet after the game. You're like, what? Wait, Tony Parker had 30 points? Right. That was his game, though. That was his game. And that's kind of the whole, I think that was one of the main values of the San Antonio Spurs organization was we're not loud. We're not going to be flat, but we're going to get the job done and we're going to be efficient, very efficient, extremely efficient. And that's one of the biggest, I think, keys to success for them.
Yeah, most definitely. That blue collar mentality, basically.
Yeah. It's like at the end of the day, yeah, highlights are good, right? You want to see yourself up on SportsCenter. You want to be like the Hornets are a good kind of example of a team that's like, especially even with the announcers too. I'm blanking on their names, but they're fantastic. That's all great. If you ask, I'm sure any basketball fan, whether which franchise they'd rather take over, I'm going Spurs every single day of the week because of their pedigree, their championship experience. I mean, that's something. And especially headed up by Greg Popovich.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right.
It's a no-brainer.
But I do want to give a little backstory as it pertains to the 2013-2014 Spurs. because I know
Should I leave the call or no?
no, believe me, I'm not. I am not going to take jabs. I won't do a jab. I promise you. But the way that roster and that personnel was built was actually because of a Euro coach named Zeljko Obradovic. And Zeljko Obradovic, if you look him up, he's probably the most greatest mind in Euroball. Point blank, period. Brother man's won 11 championships with like 3 different ball clubs, and him and Popovich are mainly similar. They're similar in terms of philosophy, in terms of ball movement, in terms of like, discipline on defense, and to have his kind of style implemented into the NBA, where they still had the highest player differentials even to this day, and they won that championship like 9 years ago at this point. And to have that kind of philosophy that works out to the point where, and I mean this with all due respect, James, because they were still a good team, but that ass whooping was something different. I have never seen nothing like it. Even the Golden State, championship runs, never seen nothing like it before.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. That year was just, it was like, it didn't even feel like they had a chance. Like, even like the little injuries, like Draymond had like a little bit of hurt knee and whatever, but still, besides the fact, it just looked like, a game of chess where it was one way better player. That's what it looked like to me. One grandmaster versus someone who doesn't know what they're doing. That's how I saw it. It was like no chance. I wouldn't even watch some of the games. Like I would start it and just turn it off. I swear to God.
That was how Popovich predicated some games too, because I don't know if you guys know this, before he became a coach, he studied, I think it was military tactics in college.
Right.
And if
he was in the Navy.
He was in the Navy. So if you think that he didn't apply that to ball, and it's a testament to, I guess, what skill and schematics over. And I'm not saying that the Heat at that point didn't have any, but it shows you that a well-crafted plan. I feel like we're dogpiling on James right now, to be honest. But a well-crafted plan will always, I feel like, sports take you a long ways. Oh, especially, and I'll say this, James, over an incredibly talented Heat team. Incredibly.
Well, yeah. Let's be honest, though. That 2012-2013 Heat, that's still the best team ever assembled of that franchise.
Yeah.
Won 67. Right. Won 67 games. They led the league in transition points. They were top 5 defensively. And, they had everything that you could want. They had playmakers. They had shooters. They had defenders. They had pretty much do-it-all kind of guys. And, even so, of them going to the NBA Finals in the bubble, it's nothing compared to what they had back in 2012.
Oh, yeah. That team was all that, like you just said, on top of the best LeBron James, whether you want to say 2016, 2012, the 2016 or 2017 LeBron that carried those dog poop Cavs to the finals on that level of player in 2012. Think about that. All you just said, these shooters, defenders, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and then LeBron James in the prime of his career. And I know we lost, we sandwiched our championships with 2 pretty bad losses, but honestly, I think it was those 2 years were enough for me as a Heat fan.
Shit, the 4 years. The 4 years of annoyance of like hearing, oh, well, we're going to win 4, not 5, not 6. Oh, my God.
Dude, that's with a lot of sports fan bases, like Cowboy fan. I don't know if either of you guys are Cowboys fans, but, you hear that with Yankees fans. I'm a Mets guy personally, but yeah, man. I mean, it's you hear that with a lot of different fan bases. I feel like there's come a certain point where it's a little bit incessant, but I feel like there should be that confidence that people have, especially with diehard fans. I don't know. That's just me, though.
It's fun. It's fun seeing people go crazy. So I'm here for it.
Right.
And they also had those Heat teams where it was like, I feel like I've never seen a Heat squad that's not fun to root for. Like that bubble Heat team, I was rooting for them personally. It's just, I don't know, even this year's Heat, last year's Heat, there hasn't been one in past memory that I haven't been like, damn, if I would see them pull it off, I wouldn't be mad, you know?
Yeah, they're a very likable team. I feel like right now they're kind of underdogs with someone like Jimmy Butler, who everyone likes.
Yeah,
and then they go up against people like the Celtics, who everyone, Jason Tatum has just as many haters as he has fans, and all these stars. See, everyone wants Jimmy and the Heat to come out on top, and I like that, but I don't love that because I like being the powerhouse team in 2012 that everyone hated, and we just kept winning. That was a good feeling compared to now we lose.
You like
rather,
being sort of like
the dark horse.
I was gonna say you'd rather be like the Death Star type, where it's like everyone can't stand that that you guys win.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's just because it's fun seeing the team win, but it is fun also being the underdog because also what comes with those people who are rooting for you. There's also those doubters, and when you see a doubter, like doubters get proved wrong, it's a good feeling. It's like, oh, Jimmy can't do this, and it was going head to head, toe to toe with LeBron James in the finals, and I feel like Jimmy proved himself, and so. If I had to choose, of course, Death Star, destroy everyone because that's just fun. But I'll take either one. Of course, if we win a championship, of course.
But to piggyback on your point, like I think we found out how tough of a player Jimmy is when he played 48 minutes throughout the entire finals game. Because, I mean, like, mind you, AI played 41 minutes a night. We get that. But make no mistake, to play that in a bubble where you, and I mean, maybe I could be the only one here agreeing that, but
oh no, dude, that's mentally difficult for sure.
But I'm just 100%. Saying we're talking about in a bubble where a lot of the players didn't want to play.
Yeah. And
they were forced to play. And to have a situation like that and be like, you know what, fuck it. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I'd rather do this than to be at home, like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck it. This is what I'm paid to do. And to have that kind of mentality, especially where Bron and AD, they were rolling, and the Lakers, they had a great defense, and they threw everything, including the kitchen sink at them. And for Jimmy to at least get 2 wins over that, that's pretty badass.
You know what and I'll bring this back to a Damian Lillard quote where they asked about pressure. He said, pressure is non-existent to me because I get literally paid to play a game. Right. I'm getting paid to play basketball. But during the bubble, it kind of did mix together. And it's a really good point you bring up, Tyler. It mixed together at that 9 to 5 type of thing, quite frankly. And I know we've all worked 9 to 5s before, dude. It's like, oh, fuck it, I can't. I have to go to work though. I don't want to, but I have to. Right. And for Jimmy to still go out there and perform the way he performed, and frankly, for all the athletes to go out the way they performed, that's extremely respectable. And I don't think a lot of people, we call it, what do they call it? The Mickey Mouse Championship.
The Bubblicious Championship. The bubble. That's what I've been told.
Dude, nobody gives those players enough credit for achieving what they achieved in those circumstances. I think is almost even more of a feat than a lot of people give them credit for, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, with the Lakers, sometimes with the bubble, people, you hear like the Lakers, they won the bubble, doesn't really count. This argument I don't even like, but like I don't even like the Lakers or LeBron, but this doesn't count argument is so dumb. So many players that came out and talked about how the bubble was like a challenge. It was like pure basketball. All the players talk about that. And then sure, the only argument you have is like the Lakers maybe didn't have the toughest road, but still they won the finals fair and square. AD was going crazy in the playoffs. LeBron finished in the finals, 100% deserved, 100% credit. They were in a bubble for 3 months. Like, I mean, most of us would dream about playing basketball for 3 months in a bubble, but these guys have families, they have lives, and they went in there and they did it. And that's 100% a ring, 100% counts. And they have not looked the same since. And I'm happy about that. But,
yeah. I mean, if we want to, fellas, we can get into that right now. Cause I watched the Lakers. Yeah. I watched I think it was the Lakers played Minnesota the other night. And well, they were off to a good start, and then they started to kind of break down a little bit. And Tyler, I know you had wanted to talk about it because you put that in the group chat. Just your expectations for this season, the age of their core, adding Pat Bev to it. I mean, what do you guys think? Because I personally, I mean, for me, you got LeBron, AD, and Russ. I know we were talking about this earlier, Tyler. You put star players together, it's not always necessarily going to equal just fun times. You have to have this level of chemistry. You have to have this level of cohesion. I don't know. The Lakers, to me, suffer from the same thing that the Nets, where it was like, this is not cohesive basketball. And even when I was watching the other night, it wasn't cohesive basketball. It seems like at times, at least with the core that they put out there, I know it's preseason, it just looked like they were not playing as a team. They didn't really know. They weren't spatially aware. They weren't passing the ball well. They were making mistakes on the offensive and the defensive end. I don't know, man. I'm not sold.
Well,
we haven't seen anyone of note play, but I'm not sold.
Right. But like, I mean, who isn't? You know what I mean? Like, when you really look at the roster as a whole, there's nothing new about the roster as it pertains to, last year or even 2 years ago, where 2 years ago, even though they didn't have Bron a majority of that season, make no mistake, they were a top 5 defense. They were still a top 5 defense, and they were still within the 15th or 20 range offensively. So to have a whole new personnel that practically regressed it last year, and have still have some of those pieces after, where even though you added a Pat Beverly, and you added, you still kept Austin Reeves. I think they also added Scottie Pippen Jr. if I'm not mistaken, as well as a Doug Christie Jr. as well. So you got a whole lot of young guys on this team, mixed with 3 Hall of Famers, one of which who shouldn't be a top 75 player, but that's not in here or there. Regardless of that, like, you still have 3 Hall of Famers who, even though 2 of them did win the championship together, make no mistake, you're the Los Angeles fucking Lakers. You're supposed to win it every year, even though it seems unrealistic to think that way. But that's what your mindset should always be.
That comes with the pedigree. Yeah,
exactly. Whether
it's the same thing as the Yankees.
Exactly, because if you are a Steinbrenner of the Yankees, what is your expectations? To win the World Series. You want to win the whole damn thing. I don't care if I won it 5 straight years in a row. I don't care about any of that. If it's a whole new year, then we reset that same goal. And it goes to a point where, and I do want to hop on it, where James said that they did win that championship a couple years ago, but make no mistake, in terms of, and I don't mean to sound like I'm hating on Bron, because I'm not, but it's that same rinse and repeat of outcome that follows him everywhere that he has gone through his 20 years in the league. I mean, you win a championship. Right. You win a championship in Cleveland. But for those 3 years, you were sporadic. And if not sporadic, you were inconsistent. By the time that you hit LA, right? We all know that he got injured. We all know that they were still being a rebuilding team. But make no mistake about it, for the past 2 years, they haven't amount up to shit compared to what they amount up to that year they won the championship. So, to me, my expectations are not really set high. I still think that they probably become a play-in team at best, the way that they are constructed now. And to speak in terms of roster moves, I don't even see any roster moves happening, especially with that monstrous, horrifying contract of Russell Westbrook. Like, I just don't see it happening.
And it's also something else that we have to take into account is the injuries. LeBron seems to be made out of titanium, so I don't know if his age is going to necessarily catch up to him. If I'm remembering correctly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen, but it's like in past seasons, maybe not even in terms of athleticism or just in terms of regular production, but it seemed like there were a few more injury scares than normal with Braun. Not
Sure.
injuries per se, but it seemed like I remember listening to that last season, be like, whoa, wow, this is a little bit and not normal for Braun. And then, of course, Anthony Davis, who it seems like he's made out of glass, even though he's a very talented player. And I don't know, man. It just, to me, that's another thing you have to worry about. It's like, how are injuries going to plague this team? Because say on about having star players but not being able to produce, those still are star players. And if you lose one of them, then it's like you have to go to it. So it's a whole thing. But I definitely do agree, Tyler. I think they have a decent shot at making the play. I just don't know with the way the West set up how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, for me, the Lakers right now, like last year was a clear and obvious shit show. So to say what are their expectations this year, for me personally, that's how I see it. Last year was so bad, but so many things kind of had to go wrong. Like AD was injured. Russell Westbrook's style was clashing with the whole team. LeBron was in scoring mode, which is not necessarily bad, but that's not the LeBron we're known. Everyone was on a different page, not the best role players to have. I mean, Malik Monk played well, but I mean, not like that grit, grind kind of role players that Caruso and Kuzma and that squad kind of brought. But in terms of expectations, if they alter these little things, I feel like it could turn them around completely. Like maybe if AD's healthy is a huge one. If AD's healthy, if LeBron James averaged 30, but it's no secret that LeBron isn't the same LeBron he was 5 years ago. He's not the LeBron that will carry your team. This is LeBron that will raise the ceiling more is how I see it. And if LeBron kind of falls back into his general, like he's like the team leader, the point guard kind of mentality instead of 30 points per game, that's another thing. If Russ can take his correct, what's the word? Like if he could find his spot on the team, like not dribble so much, not turnover so much, like focus more on kind of finding a role for himself like Melo really did. So I think it could either be a really good season or kind of again like last year, all with little tweaks. So it's kind of hard to say, but we'll see.
James, can I go off of what you said? Because I love the fact that you brought Russell Westbrook finding a spot on his squad. And that's been something that when everyone asks me, they say, Jake, like, what do you think the biggest reason for Russell Westbrook's fall off is? And I never say a lack of athleticism now versus what he used to have. Like, obviously, as you get older, your athleticism is going to fade. I 100% agree with you. I just think it's that he's fallen into this position now where he hasn't been able to find that cohesive position that he can play on a team. I think he's much more comfortable when he's the it guy, and you can't expect to be that team with LeBron and Anthony Davis, obviously. And I if I'm being honest, I think the fact that he hasn't been able to find a spot, the fact that his play has digressed, I think his confidence is just a little bit shaky. And I think part of that plays in with the media. That's got to be a big thing for him. But I love that you said that because I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. Is everyone just says, oh, yeah, Russell Westbrook's not as athletic as he used to be. He's just trash now. It's like, yeah, well, why? Like, why are you saying that he's trash? Why? Let's get into it. So, props to you.
But, you know, it gets to it gets to a point where if you really look at the true start of his career, right? You're talking about a time where he got drafted around the same area as a John Wall, as a Rajon Rondo, as a Derrick Rose, Tyreek Evans, even a Brandon Jennings, you know? And a lot of these guys, if not maybe Tyreek and Brandon Jennings, they were supposed to be all-stars. They had higher upside than Russ could ever have. And so when you look at Russ, you're like, okay, you got drafted to a small market team. We get that. You got time. You had time in nearly almost a decade and a half to reconfigure what your game is. And then, despite averaging a triple double in Washington and nearly averaging a triple double in Houston, you know, you still look at his game through all 15 years of his career, and his game hasn't changed. It still hasn't changed. And you know, I hate to sound like, you know, like the brashy young kid, like you need to come up with the times, but that's just the way it should be. You know, I mean, hell, the fact that we're sitting here and Derrick Rose has a higher field goal percentage at around, I want to say around 46.4, I believe, 46% compared to Russ's 44%. And even though it's not much of a difference, it's the shot making, it's the shot IQ, it's the how they're able to score, because now you can see that Derrick Rose, he shoots well. He's a far more fluid shooter now as opposed to when he won league MVP. Same way with John Wall. The difference with Russ is Russ looks like he's chucking it. He's not shooting it. It looks like he's tomahawking the motherfucker into the hoop.
Russ got the same shot that I played in LA Fitness.
As he's getting older, he's kind of funneling into his core strengths. Like when he was on OKC, he had a nice little mid-range, and that was not something he always shot, but when he used it, it worked well, and it made defenders have to step up a little bit. But as he's getting older, he's kind of going more and more and more to what he knows, take it to the rim, like you said, chuck up threes. And I feel like it's becoming this funnel of he's just becoming a tighter player instead of like Derrick Rose, like you said, beautifully said. It's like becoming more of an all-around kind of player, like score from different areas. Like Derrick Rose, three-point shooting got so much better, all that stuff. So yeah, I agree with you.
Another guy that had that same type of change there was Blake Griffin. I found Blake Griffin definitely curtsied his game a little bit more to more skillful and definitely better at taking threes. I think that's important though. Like Tyler, I like that you brought that up because the NBA is a constantly evolving game. And we were talking the other night about how we thought that it would evolve past this point. And I thought it seems like we're getting more dynamic centers. So more dynamic height with better shooting and all this different type of stuff. But the point is you do have to keep up with the times. Like it's not, you wouldn't sound like some kid that's, Russ is trash, but yeah, dude, you have to. That's of evolving as an athlete in any sport. Like I'll use MMA, not that this is an MMA podcast, but in recent years, leg kicks have become way more prevalent. And now guys like Jose Aldo that were always adept at checking leg kicks he just retired, but he did very well in that area. So it's just, you have to adjust in anything.
I mean, if anything, you have to adjust at all times, right? Because, when you think about it, like how many players often are eligible to join the NBA draft? Not that many, I mean, hell, there's always athletes there's always athletes in the league or in any league that you go to are more athletic than other guys. That's already foretold. But it's the difference of how you honed in your skills and how you hone in your craft ultimately and how you manifest it into what you deem as progressive or what you deem as, upgrade or what you deem as championship level. And that's what makes the difference when it comes to Russ. Because you look at him and you compare him to someone like a Kyle Lowry. You know what I mean? Like, for years, Kyle Lowry was a rogue player before he ever hit Toronto. But the difference between him and someone like Russ is that Russ had 9 years of a franchise defending him, practically coddling him, and telling him, you need to upgrade your game. You have to upgrade your game or else it will never work. And lo and behold, as we sit here today, he still, even though he remains a Laker, make no mistake about it, he will never get another contract, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but as far as I'm concerned, he will never get another contract in the NBA after this year, because I think his game is just way too obsolete now.
I agree. I think Oklahoma might have been, and I am an OKC fan. I know I forgot to say that at the beginning of the show, the top of the hour. So I'm just kind of waiting because all of our first round, fun team to watch, but most of our first round picks are in 5th grade right now. So, but back then, I do think that was sort of detrimental to Russ, was all of the highlights. Like that's what got me into the team personally, was watching Russ slam it home and do all these athletes. But in totality, you look at it and you say, like, yeah, dude, he never had to adjust because I don't want to say he had yes men around him, but he was kind of just able to have his way. And then you see on teams now where he doesn't have his way, where he can't just get as touches per game as he wants, as many minutes per game as he wants, as people are talking about having him come off the bench. That has negatively affected him more than I think age has, for sure. Not a question in my mind about that.
Yeah. And going back to talking about people like adjusting and evolving with the game. Obviously we see so many big guys shooting now and big guys coming in with handles. Talk about Victor coming in at 7'5", looking
Unfair.
like Kevin Durant.
In case you don't know what he's talking about, he's talking about Victor Wembanyama. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you're good. I'm gonna keep referring him to as Victor because I'm not gonna try the last name. But like someone like Victor at 7'5", moving like that, like never mind in NBA history, but in world history, we've never seen a 7'5" human being move like that. And the fact that in the time he's coming up, people are not like, there was in the 90s, people are saying, oh, you're 7'4", get your ass in the post. They're saying this guy, give him handles, give him a shot, give him all these things. And even people like Giannis, 6'11", athletic as hell. But Giannis is stiff. At least it makes kind of sense. Giannis is kind of stiff, athletic, strong. This guy flows with the wind. The way he moves is crazy. And I'm so excited to watch him play. I mean, I hope it doesn't end up like a Kristaps kind of put him in the corner kind of guy. But right now, we're all excited. This might be the biggest tank job in the NBA history this year, but we'll see. What do you guys? I'm curious to see what you guys think about him.
Well, I saw Richard Jefferson talking about that if Victor, or I'll call, you know what, James, you call him Victor, you call him by his full name. I'm going to call him Vic. I saw Richard Jefferson saying that Vic, if he was in the same draft as LeBron, would go number one. Now we have no way of knowing that for sure. LeBron in his own right was incredible. Like the same, I'd say definitely for the same hemisphere of hype as Vic, but man, I saw other people saying that he could add $500 million worth of value to whatever franchise he goes to. Obviously, this guy's special. Like if you know basketball, even if you're just a casual watching basketball, hey, equals good, skills equals good. This guy has both of them. Right. And he's just running around doing stuff that's unfair. I watched that game that ESPN keeps playing highlights from, and it was almost sickening watching that guy just do whatever he wanted. It didn't even look like he was like, I saw one block where the guy went for a layup and Victor was just like, and just took it like he literally just swatted it like that. It's unfair. What I do think though, and I think he's going to have a lot of hype coming in. I think he'll, obviously go into the league well and integrate well. I just wonder what's going to happen once he faces a different level of physicality. Because James, you brought up the good point that he's not like a Giannis, right? He's not stiff, but what Giannis has is strength. What everyone in the league has is that elite amount of strength. So Vic is very graceful in the way he plays. I wonder what will happen if he gets to the league and there's a little bit of that extra physicality, now obviously in the G League, you could play with NBA vets and all that stuff. So you get a taste of that, but active players right now that have that extra bit of athleticism of strength, I just wonder what happens when he runs into that. I'm not taking any hype away from him as a player, but that's the one thing that's kind of crossed my mind is how he would deal with that, put on weight, whatever it is.
Well, James, do you want to go first or?
No, you got it.
All right. I put it in a sense like I think they registered him at like 7'4". I think they said around like $190 or so, like $190 or 200 pounds. But when you really think about it, right? You look at he reminds me of a lot more fluid Rick Smits in terms of his versatility offensively. Now, do I think that he'll be like a very low post guy like Rick Smits? No, absolutely not. But that's where his game is beautiful, right? Because you could put him in pick and pop situations. You could put him in in post ups, whether it's in the low post or even in the high post as well. And then, based on the system that you run, you can put him at the 4, you could put him at the 5, or if you did what the Nuggets did back in the bubble, you could fuck around and put him at the 3 if you wanted to. So like to have his IQ already flourish at a level that, at right now that most kids don't have that kind of IQ. It's astonishing, but it's not surprising considering that in the EuroLeague, a lot of them have always been that way.
Yeah.
And I guess it speaks volumes to what they do over there as to how they set their programs with their players, and as opposed to us, where we thrive for the cameras. I mean, for the highlights, and that's where AAU is for, right? But AAU never tells you, hey, you need to hone in your skills. You need to know the difference between a flex offense and a triangle offense, or a Princeton chin offense, or things of that nature.
I literally love that you compare him to Rick Smits. I think that's great. That's like, for some reason, like I see it, but like I don't know why. Like I don't know. I like that comparison, but unfortunately, I feel like a good mega matchup, kind of very similar players like Chet, and unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to see him play, but they're gonna be going head to head rookie of the year, very similar play styles, and that next season is gonna be one of the craziest. I think could be one of the craziest rookie of the year races we've ever seen.
Do you guys think that it's going to look like with these towers running around? Because how you said how they'd integrate him into an offense. Part of me would have to think that you got to see what he can do, how he can flex his muscles as an offensive player. Do we put him at the one spot? No, of course, I'm just kidding. But like, do we have him? I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, there's so much. One of the upsides, obviously, to this player, dude, is we don't know what he can do. He could do so many things. He could. I mean, I think it was a pull-up shot in the corner where he just glided over and leaning made a three. I was like, dude, James, to your point earlier, 7'5", 7'4" people, doesn't matter. They shouldn't be able to do that. So it's like, what does the NBA look like with these guys running around, and how does the league adjust? I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that because I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I think it gets to a point where if you look at his game, right, he already has a jumper that's already fluid, so you can't really coach him there. And then in terms of like when it goes back to what I was saying in terms of like shot quality and shot IQ, like I mean he already has it, so whatever situation he goes into, they are already dealing with a situation that is already halfway developed. Now, mind you, the perfect scenario as a Spurs fan is if we do get the lottery pick, I am hoping to the basketball gods themselves that we do get Victor Wembanyama. I think it would be a wonderful fit for him. I think he fits everything that we do and everything that we do offensively as well. Considering that now, DeMar is not there anymore. LaMarcus Aldridge is not there anymore. So we practically, and even DeJounte Murray this past offseason. And so to have him in a situation like San Antonio, where they're like, hey, we'll put you through a training regimen. We'll get you 40 pounds worth of muscle. Can you imagine 7'4" at like 240 pounds? That's different. Bro, that's different. Because remember, Giannis was a $190 when he got drafted, and lo and behold, motherfucker is built like a Power Ranger, bro.
Oh my god, dude,
it's different.
I was just gonna say, bro, he was gonna get the Giannis treatment, and you know what? It's funny. It just popped into my mind. My question earlier is like, how does the league deal with this? I think defenses for a while, when Giannis would play, wouldn't they put up it was a defensive wall essentially, where it's just like, all right, throw as many guys in between him and the rack as you can, and just hope that he doesn't take two and he's there. And so I'd imagine that they might employ something like that. But then again, dude, like Vic, he has shooting. Like that's not something that Giannis has gotten a little bit better at, but Vic has that off jump. It's just crazy. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how you deal with it.
Like you said before, how will teams like adapt to someone like how are teams going to defend someone like Vic? Assume he comes Victor. I'll refer to him as Victor. Like I would say off the bat, you need guys like OG, Anunoby, someone like a strong 6'8", tough defenders, but you have to make these guys put it on the floor because if Victor gets deep in the post, he's gonna have most of your guys in a bad spot, whether he fades or whether he could do something with his footwork, drop step, or if he has on top of the key, shoots over many guys. But if someone like OG, I use him as an example, he's a great defender. If he gets up in your grill, makes you put it on the floor, I feel like that can be a way to slow someone down, but like that doesn't work with Kevin Durant. It's like depending on how Victor how he plays certain defenses. Maybe that'll work perfectly, maybe it won't work at all. But a perfect storm would be pray, because like if he could do it all, if he doesn't panic in any sense, he can put on the floor, take you in the post, shoot over you. If it is true, which would be crazy, then I don't know if it's gonna be able to be contained. And I kind of want to say one thing about what Tyler said, how if Giannis put on 40 pounds of muscle, became a strong guy. But I'm going to challenge that a little bit because remember when he was young, his jumper looked a little smoother than it looks now. He wasn't a great shooter, but it was smooth. He put on this muscle and it changed the way he plays. Like Kevin Durant came in skinny and he's still skinny and he's adapted to the game and he's playing his own style still. So is that necessarily the answer? I'm not sure. Like if Victor comes in, puts on a ton of muscle, will he become Giannis? I say Giannis-like as if it's a bad thing, but will he become a different player than what we're seeing right now? Because we're seeing this guy who flows, who's good with the ball, who moves like a point guard, shooting guard, who can score in different ways. Is putting on muscle the answer? Maybe, of course, some muscle because he's a little skinny right now. But I don't know if the Giannis effect would do him as well as maybe taking a different approach to kind of enhance his skills rather than change his body, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. And I think either maybe you split, because I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Either maybe you split the difference, you don't put on as much muscle, or you could teach a guy like Victor with his natural gifts how to use your body in a different way that doesn't require that much strength to play off of momentum and to play off of guys that might be physically stronger. Listen, I've not played basketball at a competitive level in any sense of the word, but I know that there is a way. There definitely is a way to make up that gap. I feel as though there should be, to play the game at your tempo, your pace, something that you said, James, Vic is incredibly good at. So yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't even think about that.
Well, what about you, Coop? What's your take on it?
I just think he's a cheat code. It's ridiculous to watch. I never like to, I think with an over amount of hype, I think there can definitely be negative sides. I'm not saying anything about his talent as a player or anything like that. I think he's super talented, but it is kind of one of those Zion things where Zion was super hyped coming in. He had an injury, he got fat, and then it's just almost like it switches. And that's kind of the onus definitely falls on the media in overhyping these guys. It does set this expectation. So maybe we pump the brakes. And if he doesn't perform like a demigod out of the gate, like everyone's expecting, maybe we shoot him. So that's my only trepidation here is like, what is it going to look like if he takes a little bit more time to adjust to the game? Because then, as we talked about with Russ, the media, I'm sure, all these players see what the media personnel are saying. We've had players go back and forth with people on Twitter before. Does that really affect Vic if he doesn't have the best start? Who knows? But that's my only thing is I don't think we should be putting that much pressure on him like I saw someone say, "Oh, is this the greatest prospect of all time?" Right? That's got to come with an insane amount of confidence, Vic, but also in the back of his mind being like, "Oh shit, now I have to play like the greatest prospect of all time." And people react very differently to expectations being set on them. Some people it serves them well, and others not so much. So I don't know. I want to see how this kid plays out, man. It'd be fun, and I think he's going to usher a new generation into the NBA where, like you said, James, you got Chet Holmgren's, him running around. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, I also do believe that we could be seeing the return of the big man, right?
Yeah,
because if you really think about it, to sit here and say that Giannis hasn't had any impact on the league whatsoever, you gotta be smoking, because let's be honest. The last thing that anybody would ever want has ever even thought of even dreaming possible was the skinny black kid from Greece who was selling Rolexes becomes a finals MVP and becomes one of the most physically gifted athletes we have ever seen in the entire sport. And so, my thing is anything can happen. But as it pertains to Wembanyama, like I got no complaints. The only thing is he's got to get big. He's got to bulk, because if there's one thing that this league has is definitely this league is undefeated for is definitely is father time. And what father time comes the torment of what your body goes through. And how that happens is how you treat your body, how you respect your body.
Yeah.
And you gotta, if you're gonna be rolling around and fucking around in the low post, you gotta get some muscle. You gotta get some muscle behind you.
Also, injury plays a big deal, because when you're 7'5", I mean, I don't know, you guys don't need to hear me say this, but for anyone that's watching that doesn't understand how anatomy works, if you're 7'5", that's less calcium getting, that's less blood getting around your body, your bones are a little bit more brittle. There's not that physicality there, and sometimes that can go against you if you're playing, especially like we don't know how much usage Vic is going to be getting a night. Let's just say they load him up on 32 minutes a night or something, because he can put up fucking something crazy like 40 points a night. That's going to be so much stress on his joints. And to your point, Tyler, it's like after a while, what do you do with that? So that's another thing that I just thought of is how is he going to look? Because we have seen a lot of rookies. I think Jalen just went down the other night, right? I don't know if it was something knee related. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Zion and all these kids. So that's another thing I'm personally worried about is overuse and injury.
Well, and again, I think it comes down to the understanding from both coaches and players, because I think that there are players who, even though some of them do the training regimen and they do have a strict diet plan, are some of those like AD that, they truly do not work out as consistently as many other NBA stars do. And in doing so, it becomes a detriment and becomes an annoyance to what you try to do in the regular season and what you try to take into the postseason. And the fact that like there are some players now that still deal with that issue of like I need to develop my weight, but I've been getting away with it for so long, I just don't know how to commit myself to that. It goes to a show, like you got to understand that you can't just be one style, one body, and just never change. You got to be able to evolve. And that means both the skills and your body.
Yeah. But one thing with that, like you see how much money these guys are getting paid. It's almost like, why work hard at this point? Like what was a quote? Yeah. Someone, I forgot who said, it's like, it's hard to wake up at 5 a.m. in silk sheets. I heard that somewhere. And
Boxer or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's like you have to have this inner fire and this inner like dog in you to really keep going. Like if we compare Giannis and AD, there was a time 4 or 5 years ago where it's like these guys are, who's going to be the guy? Like AD or Giannis, who's going to come out on top? And Giannis has came out, I would say, on top by a lot. Like AD, there was a video of AD in the offseason. I think it was last year. He was like shooting around in the backyard and he was like, I haven't shot since April. And that was like 3 months before. And he hasn't played basketball in 3 months. Like in the offseason, I get it's the offseason, but I promise you, Giannis is in the gym every single day of that offseason. Yeah. Like that's where there comes difference. Like people get this money and they take a step back, live your luxurious life, which respects you. Like basketball is a sport, live your life how you want. But that's where in the league differences are set. Giannis is years above someone like AD. Now it's not even a question. Imagine every GM in the NBA. Who would you rather have, Giannis or AD? I'm 100% sure everyone would say Giannis.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing, though, right?
You got the counter, Tyler. Fire back. No.
I strongly agree with James. Don't get me wrong. I look at the upside more than anything, because even though that AD was a 1-year deal in Kentucky. We also got to understand it took him a while to get where he's at right now.
It's true.
And same thing with Giannis, but the difference is Giannis is able to do it at a consistent rate.
Mm.
Whereas opposed to AD needs an agenda to be great. You need somebody to put an objective in front of you to be great. And that's where, to me, I don't see where people come off where, oh, well, AD is better than Giannis. My thing is this: you can have a Corvette. You can have a Corvette all year long, but it still does not mount up to shit of what kind of versatile of a truck really is. A truck is versatile. It's durable. It can ram through shit. It can go through anything. Point being made, when you go to AD, you get yourself a Tesla. Okay. With Giannis, you get yourself a Ford F-150. And we all know that a Ford F-150
Built more tough, yeah.
I'm saying it is it's fucking built to last.
Wait, hold on, Tyler. Counterpoint though, the new Tesla truck can be a boat though, so that might
Nah. Nah.
I know which Tesla I know which model of car you're talking about though. It's not the model of Cybertruck that can be a boat. I know what you mean.
But you know, it gets to, as I was saying, it gets to a point where, you know, people got to start looking at AD and be like, you know, not for nothing. Like, you've won a championship, you've been an all-star, you somehow got a top 75 spot, but you still are needing to prove something. And the fact that AD knows what that is, I mean, come on, we all know that he knows, and he knows that we all know what the hell that is. And is you have to play like you're supposed to be a top 75 player night in, night out. You know, and at this rate, if you're 29 years old, I mean, hell, brother, man, you're at the peak of your prime. You know, and the fact that I'm seeing guys like you know, Pascal Siakam be more on the level of effort and willing to commit to the team with the money he's getting. And I'm seeing you over here dressing like you one of the Migo brothers on the end of the bench. You know what I mean? It's like, my man, what are you doing? You know? That's why, you know, I'm not mad what Charles Barkley said. He called them street clothes. Not mad at that at all, because that's exactly what the hell you are. It's street clothes, man.
Wait, so let me ask you this. How much of that do you think, Tyler, now is because he has been shacked up with LeBron? Do you think that makes him believe it's like, all right, well, I don't have to put as much effort in as when I was on the Pelicans, you know? So like, do you think that plays into it, where it's like maybe also the fact that he has to play alongside LeBron not only makes him feel like he has to put in less effort, but also physically, like he's not going to get as many touches. Do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, I think it has a variety of things, you know, because in the world of sports, expectations comes from all sides. It doesn't come from one side. So when you have a position, or you have a situation, it's almost like AD's, where you had the best player in the league say, hey, no, I want this guy to be on my team because I believe with him, I can win championship. And if not, multiple championships. And so when some people look at the name, but don't look at the game, they often forget how often they're actually out of the game. And so when you look at AD, you're like, my man, you've only averaged at least a good 61 games a year, at least a good 61 to 59. Now, I'm not no mathematician, but the way that looks, especially if you're a top 75 player, I mean, it kind of comes off as like, what the hell are you doing? You know, what the hell are you doing during the off season? I mean, you have no dietary plan. We all know that. You tell us openly that you haven't made a jumper in over 3 months.
That's
4
ridiculous.
Months to be exact.
Crazy.
Right. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And God forbid, may God rest his soul, if Dr. Bus was alive, he probably would have traded him. He probably would have traded him right after that. Because there's no way in hell that you're a quote unquote Hall of Fame player, but you're still within your prime and you still got something to prove. regardless of winning a championship. And somehow your attitude is, fuck it, I'm a part-timer anyway. Fuck it, it's whatever. No, you're paid to be full-time. And if a 38-year-old LeBron James is doing it at year 20, okay, you got to set the same kind of example for not only for yourself, but for the team that you'll be leading post-LeBron era. And if motherfuckers can't see that, especially coming from you, then guess what ends up happening? People don't want to trust you. People are not going to want to respect you.
Yeah, no, beautifully said. Yeah, beautifully said. That was a bar and a half, actually. If I had the soundboard on hand, drop the fucking. Maybe I'll put it in post, dude. I'll put it in the what's it called, Funk Flex bomb after that one. But dude. If you're right. If I wouldn't, I mean, that's. If I have my pick, I'm not looking towards. I mean, he's talented. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not looking towards Anthony Davis to set example in any regard. You know. Maybe I'm sure he could teach players a few things and about, just experience. But yeah, in terms of work ethic, I'd much rather go to someone like a LeBron or even, dude, this might be a hot take, but I know Russ is not what he used to be in terms of production and all these things, but I still do think that he is a great teammate. And I think that he does in the locker room. I think he has some upside. Now on the court, obviously he's getting most of the touches, so he might take away, but I don't know. You could look to him for stuff as well, I feel like.
Well, I think it becomes more of a thing. See, that's the thing with Russ. Russ is like, it's like you don't want to villainize him, but you can't excuse the actions and the lack of thereof as it regards to his game and as he is as a player. And I know to your point, Coop, like it gets to the point where even though people will do say that, well, he is a great teammate, right? Because he's a wonderful teammate. My man, they're paid to do that. They're paid to say that. It's like a 2K objective at that point. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I think you look at him and Patrick Beverley. I think a lot of people mistake his fiery, competitive drive for being a guy that's like hard to get along with. Like, do I think he's on the same level as a CP3 in terms of leadership? Absolutely not. But it's a similar thing, CP3, where it's like you love to hate him, or if he's on your team, you love him. If you don't, so I don't know. I think just the fact that him and Pat Bev are seemingly boys now, I think that speaks to a little bit of it, where it's like, if you guys are going back and forth, you guys are caused each other injuries in the past, and now they're shackled up, their best buds. I just think that's not on the court, but in the locker room, I think there's some upside.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, since every team he leaves, of course you want to say good things about your teammate, but also past teammates still say kind of the same thing. So, I mean, it's obviously he say, she say kind of thing, whether it's a good teammate or not. But sometimes it's hard to, like you said, it's kind of hard to like come to his defense with certain things. It's like, I believe he has a spot in this league, but it's sometimes hard to describe it because like you see some things he does and some way he goes about things. Like the Lakers were on a losing streak last year and they were doing bad and he was on a bad run. They asked him like what he needs to improve. He says nothing. We have to prove nothing. I'm doing what I do. And it's like not the best way to go about it. I mean, I know he's talking to the media and he doesn't, I'm sure these guys don't really like talking to the media all the time, especially when you're like going through a tough period of time. But to say, oh, they're doing nothing wrong, it's like lack of growth and kind of lack of adjustment, like we were saying earlier on. And it's just not what you want to hear from one of your top 3 players on the team and one of your leaders. And that makes it like I want to stick up for him, but why would he say that? That's what I get a lot.
Yeah. You know what? I just realized something here, fellas. That might be one of the major reasons for the Lakers' mishaps is 2 out of the 3 star players on the team. You look at them and you say, oh, wow, these guys haven't really adjusted or not putting in the wood. Like that's more of a culture. I know we already kind of covered it, but that's more of a culture issue than anything else. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. If you frame it like that, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to what I said about Dr. Buss. Dr. Buss, I mean, whether you like it, whether you like him or whether you like the Lakers or not, he is the reason as to why the Lakers are the Lakers. Same way with Steinbrenner. Steinbrenner is the New York Yankees. It's not Jeter. It's not Masui. No, Steinbrenner was the New York Yankees. Same thing with Dr. Buss. The only difference is that when you have someone, when you have a environment like basketball, knowing that there is salary cap and there are limitations to what you can bring in terms of star players and in terms of how you build those star players around with the limited cap that you have. And so when you have 3 contract situations in both in Bron, AD, and Russ, and I think Bron makes 48 million, AD's making 41, Russ is making 47, which is atrocious because it's like, why in God's name would you even give that kind of money to that? But that's either way, it still is a juggling act, especially when you don't have like a great GM like Musa Ujiri, or you don't have a great GM like Mitch Kupchak. You know, when they have the resume, those 2 guys have the resume of building like either great or full out championship teams. And so when you don't have that, especially in a structure like the Lakers, you know, it becomes a fumbling act as to who in the hell do we build these guys around? You know, because we can't just sit back and try to call back Ray Allen. You can't call back Shane Battier. You can't call back Kevin Love because they're already, you know what I mean? They're already past their prime.
Over the hill, yeah.
Right. And they're already past their prime and they're already retired. And you know, it gets to a point where, you know, you look at a situation like the Clippers, for example, right? The Clippers, they are the deepest team in the league. And I think that all 3 of us can agree on that they are the deepest team on the league because they have really great shooters, really great playmakers. And like Kawhi said a couple of days ago, they have 2-way guys. Every guy on that roster is a 2-way player. And so when you have a full balanced out team like that with a great philosophy and good coach in Ty Lue, mixed in with a front office in Lawrence Frank, who does a wonderful job, and Jerry West as well. Like when you have stability at the core of your franchise, then it speaks true to volumes as to what you can ultimately become, which is a full out championship team.
Yeah, real quick before we, because I know we're reaching the end of the show here. Just talking about culture. Did you guys want to talk about Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole in the face and the aftermath of that? Because that's something I wanted to cover personally. I think the NBA is partially asked when there's stuff like this going on. And I'm not saying that it's okay that he punched Poole, but dude, as a fan, I was just no. I was eating it up. I fucking.
What I would say
it,
about
dude.
that, it's definitely not a good look for anyone on the Warriors, but people are saying, like a lot of people are saying, one has to go. I disagree. I do not think they have to break up the team or whatever the case may be. We are like, these guys they're people, they're grown men who are spending a lot of time with each other. If they weren't to clash heads, it would be weird. And the fact that Draymond Green punched him in the face is bad. And he should be more composed, be able to hold yourself. But shit happens. People do things they shouldn't do. But if you can't shake hands after that, then you have to literally, because like trading someone or getting rid of someone is not just like a thing you snap your fingers and it's done. This guy has to pick up, move his life. The team has to move this.
It's a long process.
All of this because someone gives a scuffle at practice. I mean, I know it's not good, but it's dramatic. And if these guys are mature, handle this well, then they should be able to get past this relatively easily, in my opinion.
Can I just say this, fellas? And I want to ask you guys this question. Do you guys have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, yes, I do.
I have one brother.
Hey, have you? I'm assuming you guys have fought with your brothers at least once or twice. You've gotten put in a fucking headlock, right?
Like cats and dogs.
Right,
like
but then you guys piece it up because there's the love there. You know, I've almost come to blows with my friend, especially when we play on the basketball court and he tells me how trash I am. But that's the love. So I don't know this for certain, and I don't want to make assumptions, but this could speak to, funnily enough, a higher level of chemistry than a lot of people think. A lot of people are saying, oh, he struck him. They must hate each other. This team must have horrible chemistry. Might be the opposite. it might be that these guys say, hey, I have enough trust to where it's like, I love this person enough to where, because there is that level of comfort that you have to have with someone where you know it can come to blows, but you still are able to work together and piece it up afterwards. Like, James, these guys aren't stupid. They know that if they get into a scuffle like this, they're still going to have to play together all year long. It can't just be as simple as shipping one guy off or another guy off. I just don't buy the fact that these guys aren't close. I think it speaks to a new level of closeness. I think these guys, I think that's something the Bears have always, in my personal opinion, gotten right, is the chemistry on the team and all this different type of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised, dude, if they were their boys and this was simply just like a brother on brother type of thing. But that's just me.
Well, it kind of gives different perspectives of how you look at it, right? Because you look at Draymond's history, I mean, he's always been known to be a volatile player. That's what his, I mean, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but ultimately that's what his legacy is that as great as a defender he is, as great as a communicator as he is in terms of both Steph and Clay, because they absolutely adore him. They do, as well as the front office. But on that flip side, they do know how volatile he can become, and at oftentimes how he pushes things too far. And I think that it was one of those circumstances where, like, yeah, Jordan Poole is going to get paid, and regardless on it being a very large market, especially in Golden State, and being a very large salary cap franchise, make no mistake about it, there's not enough to go around. So then when you look at Draymond, right, it could be a whole skew of things, whether it's trying to repeat, whether it's, am I going to get traded or am I going to get bought out at the end of next year? If do I have to take less money? Is it going to be any money left? So a whole bunch of questions start flowing into your head, especially when now you're in training camp and you have to go up against, you have to go up against kids that are going to be taking your spot in the next 3 years. Whether it's Poole, whether it's Moody, whether it's Wiseman, whether it's Kuminga, whether it's any one of those guys, he's going to have to come with the realization that even though that they adore you and they love and respect you, you got to understand that there are certain limitations and certain boundaries that you cannot cross, especially as a leader of the team. You can't be doing that, because now what ends up happening? Because now if things go awry at the start of the season, let's say like they start off 500, right? Suffice to say, this could come back to haunt them. This could, even though it's
the media could run with that narrative. Yeah.
Exactly. It could run. It would not only run it to the point where it becomes an ongoing theme as to which kind of Golden State we're going to get. Are we going to get a volatile Golden State, or are we going to get a old school Golden State team? And so when you look at Draymond, he's already dealing with a bad history, because we all know that he was the reason why KD left. He was the reason as to why they lost back in 2016. And he was the reason as to why, that Poole could potentially sign with another team next year. And so now if you're Draymond, you got to start thinking like, okay, I'm getting older. I already got my money. I already got my chips, but it's how I handle my leadership, my longevity, and my respect towards other young players that are going to be taking my spot in years to come. That is how I got to reshape the narrative, because I still think he still has time to do it, but it's good. He's going to have to be full out gung ho. I wouldn't say pacifist like, but like you can hold him accountable, but you can't just smack him in the back of the head and be like, "What are you doing?" You just can't be that way.
That's fair. I actually, that's a good point. How like the way he is disrupted certain things, like Kevin Durant, like how he was suspended in 2016. But like with these things that come like the negative, that's like a part of his positive things. The reason he's valuable is the kind of the grit and the aggression, the way he is. And unfortunately, everything comes with some bad, and that's the bad, like the things you mentioned. So I 100% agree. He can't be doing stuff like that, especially like it could like mess up future plans for the team. Like imagine Jordan Poole leaves or something like that. So you're right. He should not do that. And there's definitely no excuse. But with the good comes some bad. With Draymond Green, it's extreme on both ends. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I also think it speaks to KD player, because if the independent variable is, Draymond Green in all of these situations, it is, to James' point, it just is the way it is. And I'm not, again, I just want to say it's not good that he hit him. Like I'm not advocating him hitting Poole or anything like that, but I do think Draymond does bring that type of raw, I don't know, presence, So yeah, not acceptable, and it definitely comes with its downsides. But if you could figure out a way, and maybe they haven't already, who knows? But if you could figure out a way to kind of curtsy the situation to a more positive light and have Draymond channel this has never happened before. Like this is not something that's ever, to my knowledge, he hasn't struck anyone. I know, say what you want about him kicking nuts in games and, while stepping on. Oh no, that wasn't him that stepped on Kawhi's ankle. Who was that? It was
Zaza.
Zaza Pachulia. Yeah. Dude, you know what's funny? I knew
that guy.
I knew a model, just a quick story. I knew a model who knew Zaza personally. And way back on like episode 40, I was trying to get him on for an interview. And that was going to be one of the things that I wanted to kind of like get into the area of. I wasn't going to ask him about stepping on the ankle, but I wanted to see what he thought about the whole situation.
That would be great.
But yeah, man, I think it's I agree with James. I agree with you too, Tyler. I mean, it's tough. It's a nuanced situation for sure.
Yeah.
But listen, do we want to talk about anything else before the end of the show? Do we want to plug anything? I safe to say that this can definitely be a weekly occurrence. I had a lot of fun with you guys. I think I don't know, man. I'm ready to go for more, man.
Oh yeah, this was fun. I definitely want to be back. I enjoy this. I miss, seasons coming up, that basketball. I feel like I drifted away a little bit from basketball this off season, but I'm ready to come back hard.
That's same with me too. It's like I had to like kind of readjust myself into the basketball world a little bit.
Right. Well, to end the show with a quick question, like a one-worded answer.
Yeah.
What is your take, or what is your choice of winning the championship this year, for what you know right now?
Tyler, you go, because it seems like James and I are at for words. I got to think about it for a second.
For me, I think it's the Clippers. I think they're the most. I think right now, as constructed, I think they can be the second best team in the West. And if I'm going to be a little bit bold, I do have Kawhi Leonard winning league MVP this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I don't want to be boring and say the Warriors, so I won't. I'm gonna say fuck the Ime Udoka situation and go Celtics with Brogdon.
Yeah.
The addition. I'm gonna say maybe that's a little left field, but if I'm right, it's going history books. I'm saying the Celtics.
I think there's a lot of volatility around both teams, Golden State and the Celtics. Obviously, the Ime situation, and now even the Draymond situation could cause some waves. Who knows? I can't ignore the fact that the Celtics have seemed to right their ship. Like in past seasons, obviously this last one, they were playing very well, but seems like they've gotten their identity back. I like the ball rolling. I do like the Clippers. I do like Golden State, but I'm gonna go Celtics.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm happy you agree with me, but I really, really very badly don't want them to win.
Yeah. Well, fellas, listen, great show. If any Instagram handles you guys want to plug, anything you want to push, and then I think we'll make this for the listeners a weekly occurrence. I think that's fair to say. Obviously, life happens, so we'll let you guys know if we miss something. Yeah. Anything you guys want to plug?
No, the only message I have is respect everybody that you meet, and love everybody that you know. And that's it.
Beautiful. I don't want to
Beautiful.
say anything after that. Beautiful.
Hey, you know what? I'm not
plugging yet. Next week, I'll plug. All right. I'm leading up for some mystery.
Okay. All right. So a little project going. All right, fellas. Listen, thank you so much for listening. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. And I keep dropping the microphone thing here. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.